One. Hey, everybody. Welcome to That's Good Stuff, our first episode of year 2025. We are back, barely on one feet. 2024 tried to kill us at the very last moment. They did a pretty good job. So we are finally back with a new episode, but we're hopeful for the future. So on this
If we
one,
make it.
yeah, if we make it out of January. So on this one, we are going to talk about one of the last movies to release in 2024, and that was Nosferatu, which came out on Christmas Day. But you find out in the movie why that is, right? Takes a place on Christmas season.
Yeah.
So
Yuletide. Woo.
so for Nosferatu, I believe Jared is going to try to run down the plot if he can.
I'll try to do this. I'll try to remember it. So, yeah, this is the new Robert Eggers movie, the adaptation of Nosferatu, and we start off with Lucy having a dream, just kind of
Johnny Depp's daughter.
Having a dream of like how this whole thing kicked off. Then that we get introduced to her and Thomas is his name. I think.
Yeah. And I think it's Amelia is her name.
Ellen, I think.
Nobody knows.
The lady with 30 names. Fact check somebody. Jeez.
Okay,
I'm doing it now.
He's got you.
No.
Anyway, we're introduced to those two, and this is pretty faithful to like the original source material. So we go through a lot of the same beats. So Thomas and
Ellen or Ellie
are recently married, and he's trying to be a partner in this realty firm. And his boss calls him in and has a huge proposition for him. He's like, if you can land this deal with this guy that wants to buy the old manor, I forget what it's called, but the old manor in town, we'll make you partner finally.
The old Spirit Halloween.
The old
Toys R Us.
The old monster house.
What if that was the origin story for Spirit Halloween? Was this movie?
That'd be awesome.
Write that movie, Jared. Do it.
Anyway, so he takes he takes the offer. He tells what was it? Amelia?
Ellen.
Ellie. Whatever this lady's Johnny Depp's daughter.
This is Johnny Depp's daughter.
He tells her that he has to go away probably, what was it, like 6 weeks? To sell that property to this count. And so he goes off on horse. Not even a carriage, just horseback. And I was kind of surprised. I was like, anyway. So she stays with their friends, who is played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. Is that his name?
Yeah.
I'm not sure of the actress. I'm sorry, actress.
I know her, but she's in Deadpool and Wolverine. She plays the Charles Xavier sister.
Yeah, she's a chick from
Nova.
World.
Yep.
What is
and no,
I did not know that.
I'm not gonna lie. I like the bald head. It does it for me. Don't know why.
Give it a little rub and kiss.
Yeah,
but this is not about that bald head.
A different bald head.
So she's staying with them, having a sleepover with their little posh British kids, going, "Papa, Papa, pay attention to me, Papa." They cracked me up. I love them. Anyway, so Thomas gets to like the village before the like actual castle where the count lives, and there's some creepy vibes. They're all singing and dancing and whatever, but there's some creepy vibes. They put him up for the night, and he wakes up during the middle of the night to witness a ritual that's going on. They're gonna, of course, like crazy village people do, they're gonna sacrifice a young lady to whatever. He doesn't quite know. And so he's freaking out, and then he wakes up and he's like, I better just get to that castle right now. And so he travels to the castle, and like almost most of the way. This like carriage without a rider or anything picks him up, and it's kind of like, what the heck is going on? It's very like Beauty and the Beast, I thought. And it takes him to the castle. I don't remember if anything is going on with the wife at this point, but we're gonna stick with Thomas.
He just has very bad vibes going on.
She's starting to have those attacks.
Oh yeah, she is starting to have those attacks and getting visited by the doctor, who was played by the guy from The Witch.
Someone do his voice right now.
Can anyone get that deep?
I don't remember what he said. I don't even remember what he said.
If I try, I'm gonna start coughing. I'm already doing it.
So Thomas arrives at Count Olaf's castle. Very disturbed. He's like, this guy, I can't see him. He's never in full light, so that's kind of strange. He's got this real heavy accent. He's rolling his R's like crazy. Thomas could never do it. But they go through the business deal. He's like, sign this paper, which is, you can't read it, but it's just the legal formalities. You just got to sign this.
Do it.
I'll come by that house. I'll live there. You'll be a partner.
We'll
He's
be
like,
neighbors.
oh, that's a good deal. And so he's kind of scared. He's like nervous about signing this paper, but he does it. Bad voodoo happens after that. You can tell. And then he's like, hey, how about you eat your food? And I made this delicious food for you. Go ahead. And he cuts himself like an idiot. Cuts into himself. He doesn't cut away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basic knife etiquette. Don't cut towards yourself.
And it looked like a butter knife. It looked like a butter knife. I don't know how he did it.
He needs to go back to kindergarten or something.
But this arouses the Count. This excites the Count. He's aroused. He's like, oh, what's that? Liquid gold right there. And a lot of, I think he bites him at that point, right? That's the first time he kind of like,
he bites him. Wakes up and he's like bit.
Yeah.
No, yes, he does bite him, but what he does like that trance thing where Thomas is sitting by the fire and then Thomas like freaks out and then he wakes up. He's like,
oh. Yeah. So he wakes up the next day. He really wants to leave. He's like, I got to get out of here. And the Count's like, nah, it's you can't leave just yet. And he's like, I really want to leave. He's like, oh. And
bad luck.
Yeah. And then so he's trying to get out of the castle. And then he comes across like this, I don't know what you would call it, but there's like this room, kind of like basement thing towards the end of the gateway. And he's like freaking out, but he goes in there, he breaks the lock, he goes down to the basement, and there's just like a casket like thing down there, and he pulls off I don't know why he did this. He pushed off the lid, and then he's just in there, and it's like, oh, he's naked. And so he chases after him, and then eventually it comes to a point where Thomas just jumps off the cliff into the water.
As you should.
And then we go back to Ellie or whatever the freak her name is, and she's going through all these like possession like states and stuff like that. So the doctor's like, I know one guy. He probably knows what this is about. And we get introduced to William Dafoe. And what a delight. But anyway, he's like all about the occult. He knows everything. He's got books on it. They go meet him. And he's like, I don't want to talk to you people. But then they're like, hey, this chick's possessed. And he's like, oh, I think I know what you got.
Man, if things like this happened in real life, you probably would go to Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
He'd know something at least.
Yeah.
During this, we find out that Thomas's boss is kind of going crazy. Like he was admitted into the psych ward, and he's spouting off like he's coming, my master's coming, and all that. And he's biting people, he's eating people. Oh, he had a pigeon's head. He's just like, he's like delicious. So, Willem Dafoe and the dude from The Witch trying to figure this out. Like, why is she freaking out? And then like the Aaron Taylor Johnson's character is like, she's just being silly. Like, just go. Like, everyone needs to calm down. Nothing's happening. Where the heck is Thomas? He should be here. And then nuns.
Yeah,
some nuns.
He's recovering.
Oh yeah.
Oh
like
yeah.
beating the possession.
Yeah.
Like, you need Jesus. And he slapped him.
Average Catholic service, but whatever.
Eventually, Count Olog's boat like docks onto the shore or the dock, and of course it brings all the rats. That ghost song "Rats" starts playing. There's rats everywhere. They're like eating everything. But he eventually arrives. That cool part where like his hand goes over the city happens. So there's plagues going on. A literal demon is in town. And then Thomas arrives finally, and we're like, finally, what the heck? He's like halfway out of it, just like, I went through some crap in a castle. We need to get out of here. We need to leave. And she's like, I don't remember what she said, but
he's for me.
So he's trying to recover back at Aaron Taylor Johnson's house, and she's like, "You've never liked me. For some reason, you've always hated me." And he's like, "I just do, okay? I just do. You suck,
true, man."
And he's like, "You and Thomas just need to go back home. I'm done with you guys." And that night, her and the wife are like, they're sleeping in this. They're having a sleepover because she's scared. Everyone's freaking out. And then the rats get her. The rats get the wife. And they tell the dude this, and he's like, "No, it's not demons. The rat, it's just the Black Plague.
Yeah.
Clearly, it's just rats."
That sounds even worse.
So he's kind of fed up. They go back to their house. They have some marital problems. They're having a fight. She's like, "My ex was way more passionate than you'll ever be," and that kind of hurts his feelings. He's like, "Dang, that's a bit rough." And they get into it. Eventually,
they get into it.
I put it as nicely as I could.
He gets into something. That's right.
And so they're like, they all get together and are like, we have to like get. He has to sleep at night, right, or in the morning when the sun's out. So we have to burn him at that time because that's the only thing that will work. And so everyone's like, yeah, agrees on the plan. Meanwhile, the Aaron Taylor Johnson guy is having a hard time with all the loss. He goes to the cemetery, and he's not having a good time. So they burn him. He's dead.
Did you cover that his daughters got eaten too?
No. I didn't. I forgot about that until I said all the loss, and I was like, oh yeah, his kids died too. Yeah,
he needed a snack.
There's a lot of rats, Thomas. There's a lot of rats out. And so Thomas is like, I got a plan. The men are gonna go take care of this because we're men. And then Willem Dafoe takes his wife aside, and he's like, "You got to do this, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, I got this." And then they high five. And so they go to the Count Olog, the place he bought, and like where he's supposed to be. And they open his coffin, but the boss is there. And they're like, "Dang it, you're not Dracula, you're not Nosferatu. Who are you?"
Well, they plunge a 3-foot spike through the dude too.
Yeah. Well, he was a pigeon killer, so
It's true.
That needed to be done.
Mike Tyson does it, so.
And so Willem Dafoe's like, you gotta let this happen. She's taking care of it. And he's like, no. And so Willem Dafoe burns the whole place. Thomas is rushing back to his house because Nosferatu's there with his wife shacking up, and he's like, none of that. And she saves the day because she's distracting him until sunrise. And then it's sunrise and he burns to death, as vampires do. And that's the end.
That's the end.
I will say, watching this next to Johnny was hilarious because he would always do the whole hot to crazy ratio. And then whenever like a woman would come on, he would go like, right there.
So was this whole thing just a metaphor for the mom having to kill the spiders at the house? Because everyone else is too scared?
Sure.
What?
I'll allow it.
Okay.
Joseph got something completely different than
Joseph's
everybody
in
else.
the sick clouds right now.
I finally figured it out.
I didn't want to go the Oedipus route, but all right, cool, Joseph. We're there now. Appreciate it.
What? I said killed the spider.
Yeah, but the mom killed the spider.
Because all the other people are in the house are too
Or
afraid.
is
But that
mom the
implies that
spider?
you're implying that
The mom's not the
is-
spider.
You're implying that the mom is screwing the spider.
No, she killed it.
All right, we'll go with that.
All right. So, what did you think about the movie? Who should we go to first?
Let's go with Jonah. He's the guest star on here.
Okay, go ahead, Jonah, the guest star.
And quick preface: have you seen the other two?
Most of the first one, not the remake.
Okay.
You're not missing anything.
Shut your mouth. Shut your whore mouth.
People do love that movie. I really like this one. I think I'll start off with what I didn't like, because it's shorter than what I did like. Is the main thing was just I hated the design of Orlok, because I don't know, it's so distracting. Yeah, it's just a gigantic mustache just coming down his face the whole movie.
Looks like a Motorhead fan.
He just kind of looks like some kind of like general or something, but it kind of took away from like what's supposed to be scary, I guess. But and also, like Jared said, this does stick very like surprisingly heavily to the plot of the original, and I think it could have gone a little like more original than like that, because sometimes it doesn't. I don't think it does translate like why stuff happens when it does. I think they could have shuffled like some scenes around a little. But other than that, yeah, it's fantastic. Like the visuals mainly is what I take away from it, because it's really just this like big contrast of like light and dark, and shadows are used like amazingly in this movie, like the original. Shadows was a big part of it, like that very famous shot of him like going up the steps and they kind of bring that back in a way, kind of, and I love the way they do that. Even with like I like how they kept like any sunlight till the end of the movie, kind of. Even the daytime shots, like earlier, they're like kind of like cloudy and kind of like gray, and then they just kind of have that burst of sunlight at the very end. And yeah, and I love that this movie doesn't really take itself like super seriously, or realistically at least. It has a very like fairy tale like kind of like tone to it, like throughout it. Even like Jared said, the carriage kind of just drives itself, but that's not, you don't really think about it. It just kind of makes sense. It's like one of those old like silent films that like where something like that would happen. And even like Willem Dafoe's like last line in the film is very much like the closing to like an old story or something. I really like that. Just the whole ending is I really like the whole climax, and the final shot is incredible actually. I like how it's kind of like it's like shot beautifully, but it's kind of like disgusting looking at the same time. But the ending at least. But
What was his last line?
I don't remember. It's just something about like
Yeah, it's very that just that kind of like poignant period on the.
'Twas
movie
beauty
there.
that killed the beast.
Yeah,
Something
exactly like that. Yeah.
Yeah, actually.
she made like a sacrifice or something, and it brought an end to the vampire or something like that.
Yeah,
like, different, not that, but something very much like
something
that.
about a sacrifice.
Yeah. All the acting was great. I think it would have been easy for Lily Rose Depp to be like, and Nicholas Hoult to be very over the top in this, and they kind of pull back just as much as they need to. Especially going up against like Bill Skarsgård and Willem Dafoe in the same film, who just always go like 100% with everything. And I think Willem Dafoe actually does bring, like you said, like a lot of like light or like playfulness to it, kind of, because everyone else is very serious and he's just kind of joking around and having a good time. I think he's basically just like as crazy, but just because he's going against a vampire, they kind of need him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's this is the only film by Robert Eggers I have seen so far. So, but it's definitely, I see why people like his style. I love the camera work; it's very precise, and it's kind of like someone's just like kind of showing you like where to look. It's very like he wants you to look very in a specific spot, like the whole movie, and it's very like clean and like smooth, the camera work. But yeah, it has an incredible style, and I think this probably, yeah, it's probably one of the best films of the year, and yeah, it's a really good remake.
Ooh, who do you want to go next, Jonah?
Let's go to Thomas.
Me. I'm back, by the way. Hello, everybody.
Back from the nuns.
Yep, back from the nuns.
To beat the demon out of you.
Everyone gets sick when a Thomas leaves town.
Right. So yeah, no, Robert Eggers is one of my favorite directors working like right now. The Northman was probably one of my favorite movies in a while. And yeah, something that you brought up, his camera work is just awesome. Like there's this one part where there's like a scene transition between two characters, and I swear to God, it's the same shot, but the characters like switch out in between shots. It's just so like, I remember Michael like saying like, I saw you like flinch. I was like, yeah, no, I did flinch. I just went like, whoa, that's a really cool shot.
Yeah, it was whenever she's walking out the door and her arms go up and like, I can't remember what it transitioned from into, but like the arms just like followed through.
Oh,
It was so, I was like, Thomas, I saw him like turn his head. I was like, that was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a good shot.
Was that after the hand thing?
Might have
I
been.
think so.
I think
It was,
so.
it was in.
It went from like the hand to her like window, I think.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I mean, the original's pretty interesting because it's basically a bootleg of a. I mean, the whole story behind it's pretty fascinating. And then I love the Werner Herzog one. I don't care what Jared says.
I don't care what you say. That was trash.
Klaus Kinski is great, even though if he is a National Socialist Party member, but whatever. But yeah, no, this movie was it was fantastic. Like I love the acting in it. I don't think there's a bad performance in it. The
one of the rats, it kind of was lacking. I was like, dang, rat.
The score in this is amazing.
I forgot to mention that. It's really good.
How does that always happen? I always mention the score and you immediately forget.
I don't
know. No, the score in this one was probably my favorite since The Witch, which I think is just an amazing score. Maybe The Lighthouse is a little better because it's kind of creepier, but this one was just, it fit perfectly. The shots, like I think my favorite scene in this whole movie was when Thomas is going down those roads in the forest, and the fact that they try to use as much natural lighting as they could because the forests are like that dark. It just looks so awesome. And when the carriage pulls up, I'm like, nope. I just be like, that way, not going in that thing.
Are you expecting Black Phillip in that farm?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit. Maybe with the gypsies, which was a really cool scene, by the way. But yeah, no, this is great. And like, there's a lot of historical stuff that they pull out. I know, history nerd over here, but like even Cal Orlok's like, his outfit was based on a prince of Transylvania from like the 1500s. So they try to go like as like realistic as they could with a lot of the like the wardrobe and stuff too, which I think is awesome. And I think that's about all I got for this one. My voice is starting to crack a little bit. So let's go to Michael.
Yeah, we'll see how my voice is getting steadily worse by the second. So all this is hitting me after it hit everyone else. It's very annoying. This was an interesting one though, because I like Robert Egerton's films. I like The Lighthouse is my favorite of his, but I've never had that same, like, everyone's like The Witch, The Witch, The Witch. And I'm like, I've seen The Witch. I don't remember a lot of The Witch, and I remember very much enjoying it, but everyone talks about how amazing it is. And I feel like I'm kind of at the same point with this movie. Like, I know this is a great movie. I watched it, and like you guys said, it's a beautiful movie. You Joseph or Jonah mentioned it being kind of like a fantasy, and then Thomas bringing up the scene in the woods. That's exactly how I would describe how I felt while he's walking in those woods. I was like, I feel like I'm watching like a live action Beauty and the Beast, but really, really dark. But I feel like it'll definitely I need to rewatch The Witch and this, because I think I settled on great, because I feel like when I rewatch this, because I want to, I feel like I'm going to like it and appreciate it a lot more. But there were 2 points in this movie for some reason. Like, I wasn't in this movie at all. Like, it's not, nothing's bad. Like, I don't think anything about this movie's bad, but there was something that didn't grab me in this. Like, in the beginning, I was like, I am not into what everyone's doing. And I think I have a preference, or I have a soft spot for when it comes to points where she's freaking out. She's having these demonic seizures, basically. And like, he's like, no, you're just having these issues from trauma, childhood, all this, blah, 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 blah. And they're very disbelieving of her. Same with Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. And he kind of disregards her saying, and everyone's saying, oh, it's the devil, it's blah, 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 it's this, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, it's not. It's just this. You're being ridiculous. And there's never a satisfying payoff, in my opinion, for them realizing that, which I'm a big sucker for. And it's kind of cheesy and overplayed, but I like that sense of people realizing that the quote unquote main character wasn't a loony bin. I don't know why. I'm always very satisfied when that comes through, and it never hit in this movie. He just kind of pats her on the head and then goes off to this mansion. And yes. Like, after that point, I was in. Like, it just didn't grab me initially, but like going to the castle, and like you guys said, like, having him in shadow, because I was worried about that with the trailers, because you see him in the trailers, you see Orlok, whatever, and then like, oh, good Lord, we're just going to do this monster out of the shadows the whole time. You're going to see him, but the fact they kept him in that weird cloak, and then he's just in the shadows the whole time in his weird grumbling voice. And I didn't look it up, but I was guessing that he probably didn't have any special effects to it, because it's him, Skarsgård doing it. But it was a very impressive. Although I will agree with Jonah. The mustache caught me off guard. I didn't remember that from the books, but like Johnny said after we got out of the theater, he's like, I wish they had just like had scruff with it, not so clean shaven. Give it a more kind of lived in look, rather than like he's getting up.
He's a count, guys. He's got to,
but he's a
class
count
it up a little
with like bites in his ears and everything. Like he's gone to seed. He can have a little scruff, but yeah, like you guys brought up earlier. I expected everyone that was in this to do a great performance, but I didn't know. I've never seen Lily Rose Depp in anything. I feel like she knocked it out of the park. Like, I was astounded at how good she was in this movie. The possession scenes made me feel so on edge in a way that, like, you've seen that so many times before. A girl in the bed thrashing around everything, but like hers actually brought me real tension. So I thought she did such a great job with that, and her kind of lost panic before, and then the weird transitions they had. I like
that one where she's like going back and forth between like sane and
so good. And the camera shot where she's looking up at him, I thought that was so. And speaking of him, freaking Nicholas Hoult, I love Nicholas Hoult. Anything he's in, I'm like, yes. And so like to have him in this, and like it's like Jonah said, he because like you watch The Great, and it's intentionally bombastic, which I recommend to anyone. The Great is an amazing show, and he's in it, and he's just been bombastic king, and he like toes that line so carefully in this movie, where he is kind of freaking out and losing it. But he like Johnny said after we got out of the movie, he was like, his tension when he's running away and like he's bashing that lock open and he's trying to get out of the castle. I was so there with him in that. I'm like, this is awesome. It also helps that it's visually so impressive. But yeah, all the performances are so good. Willem Dafoe is just the most delightful man on the planet, and his running when they were in the street and they're running down together as their little like party goes to save the day. It was. I don't know if that was actually him, but it was the funniest thing, because he kind of had a weird little like running gesture waddle, and I was like, "What is going on?" I love it, but
a happy man.
But I can't remember. There was one other point that I didn't quite. I think it was that other point whenever it gets to like her with the main character with Aaron Taylor Johnson's house, and them kind of disbelieving her, but there was never the payoff for me of him being like, "Oh, you were all right. Like this is a demon." Like he kind of throws her out, but there's never that satisfying like. look, you were wrong, dude. I don't know. I like those. I'm very easy to please with those if you just give them to me. But the movie didn't give it to me, so but like I said, I do want to rewatch it. I want to kind of take those scenes at what they are face value now. But yeah, I mean, this movie is very, very impressive. Like you guys said, the music, the score, everything, the shots, how they recreated shots. I've never seen the originals, but you've seen those clips before of, Nosferatu and those. So yeah, recreating, keeping that style. And then I don't know if you guys, I saw a interview with the director and he was talking about the last shot, which like Jonah said rightfully is Johnny got out and he's like, that was like a Renaissance painting. Whenever he's just laying on top of her and it was like so dramatic. But apparently he was like, we had to redo a little bit of that because we had blood out of the eyes, blood out of the ears and mouth and everything like that, but we also had it out of the anus. And so like he's laying on the bed on top of her and he's like, it was a little too humorous. There were some giggles, and so we had to take that out. I was like, I think that was probably a good call. But going off of that, I had never seen. Alex was saying that in that one movie Thomas lent him, the vampire one, let the right one in.
Mm-hmm.
That there's that kind of vampire dying. I don't know how I would put that, but in that sense of like the blood and everything, like the kind of, it's not just like burst into flame or turn to ash. Like I had never seen one done like this before, and I thought it was very, very impressive. I liked the kind of just impact it left on that, and just like like you guys brought up that last line and just the scene hanging on that. It's such a good ending. But yeah,
speaking of good vampire movies, you need to watch that one.
I do need to watch that one.
Don't watch the American remake.
Only watch the American remake.
No, it's a terrible, terrible remake.
But yeah, so that's about. I think that's all I got for now. So, how's your voice feeling, Joseph?
I think I can make it.
I like how we're doing. Like,
dude, my voice is just diving there so badly.
So I had no idea that this movie was actually remade last year. There's also a Spanish remake that's supposed to be pretty good. So it's been done a couple of times. For me, sadly, like most 2024 movies, this movie was just all right. It's super safe. This is like Edgar's being like super safe. It's so, if you want a movie that is just so faithful to Nosferatu and to Dracula, this movie is like just perfect for you because it doesn't really throw any curveballs into the mix. Even with the casting, Nicholas Hoult just seems like he'd be Nicholas Hoult in this movie. Willem Dafoe shows up and you're like, of course Willem Dafoe shows up. He has to be in this movie. Bill Skarsgård, I don't know what it is, but this guy, he's played what's his name from It?
Pennywise.
Yeah, and he plays him for some reason. He's got a gigantic head on like a tiny body on both of these movies, and I'm like, that's just his thing.
This is just me being like, I wonder if this is a thing or not. So, Bill Skarsgård was supposed to be in The Northman. He's supposed to play the main character's cousin, because the main character is his brother in real life. But Bill couldn't do The Northman, so he had to drop out. So I'm wondering if this was the whole, hey, you want to be in one of my movies again? And you've already done the It thing. So I'm wondering if that's kind of it or not.
Aaron Taylor Johnson, I thought he was okay.
You could tell this was post Craven though, because that man is a triangle.
Yeah,
like
he's
that dude was still puff.
I think he's very like. I was watching another review, and they're kind of supposed to be. They thought that the cast was supposed to be kind of over dramatic, because it is like a gothic horror story. So that didn't really bother me. I don't know if Aaron Taylor Johnson bothered me. He just seems a little more modern than the cast. The Ralph Ineson guy, I think he actually was the standout for me because I liked his doctor dude, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so wrong about everything."
That dude's voice is awesome.
I liked how he was kind of like a fanboy of the other doctor, Willem Dafoe's character. He really believed in him, and he's like, "Yo, yeah, that will work."
Yo, that's crazy, man.
Are you proud of me? Look what I've done.
And the movie just trades for me, it traded gothic horror for Eggers horror, which is, I like to kind of describe it as like Puritanian puritanical, with like very pilgrimage horror that he does with like the witch and stuff like that. But yeah, so instead of a gothic feel, what you get from like the original one, you get more of that kind of feel from Eggers, and you just like, oh, I can feel that I'm in an Eggers movie. The best part, the standout parts for me, I think was the Orlok's castle. I thought that stuff was cool, especially when he's in the forest and the trees are like black and there's kind of like this white outline. I thought that was a really cool shot, probably the best shot for me in the movie. But yeah, I did like how you guys said they kind of hide Orlok a lot in those scenes. I think at the end, I mean, they show him all the time, so it's no surprise anymore. But even when he starts hallucinating, and there's that like figure in the corner of the like fireplace, and it like turns its head, and he's like, that stuff really worked for me. But once they leave there and they go back to Germany or whatever the town's called, that stuff kind of like falls apart. Then we get like the voyage of the Demeters thrown in there. Like we watched that movie recently. We reviewed it this year, so we're like, oh, we get this little nugget again. So yeah, I just thought it was way too safe, and I would like to see him just kind of throw a curveball at us somewhere. I don't know, maybe at the ending or something. So Jared, it was your turn.
So Robert Eggers is probably one of my favorite directors. He's made like two of my favorite movies. And what he does that I enjoy and that I'm a sucker for, that I talked about when we reviewed Longlegs, is atmosphere. The main thing, like the thing that I look for in horror movies is atmosphere. I'm not going to get scared, so I want to I want to feel like I don't know. It's all about atmosphere for me, and Eggers does that perfectly. Like with The Witch, you feel so isolated on that farm. You feel alone with that family, and when like the Black Phillip or the devil is introduced into that area, you feel alone with that evil. And then the lighthouse, you're just again isolated on an island with a lighthouse, and then eldritch stuff starts happening, and it's awesome. And then this, especially in the beginning, like during like I felt like he did a lot of like dreamscape stuff, like with the first encounter with Lily Rose Depp and Orlok. When you get the backstory of that, and then the castle, him going to the castle, I thought was perfect. I thought it had great atmosphere. It was dark. It was gothic. You felt for Thomas being in like this weird little village, and you were like concerned for him. And then when he's alone in that castle with Orlok, you're like, oh man, this is bad news. And it's just like dark in there, and they're like, man, I would not want to be in there with that dude. So up to that point, I was like, this is perfect. When they go back to Germany, like Thomas and Orlok, I do like the dark, like gothic Germany setting. But it just feels like old timey, like London or something like to me. It doesn't feel.
Plus, no one's German.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like as unique as the latter half of the movie. But as a whole, I did enjoy it a lot. The only gripe I do have with it, because like you guys said, the acting, the music, awesome. The only gripe I had was the design of Orlok. Because to me, like I said, he looked like a Motorhead fan, or like just like the dude with the handlebar mustache. It wasn't very like, because like when you watch the original Nosferatu or the first one, when I first saw that, it freaked me the hell out when I just saw him, because I was like, oh, like he's like kind of like he's like grotesque. You're just like, ugh. And this, I was like, huh, looks like you would see him at a concert or something like that. So I was like,
yeah, I felt the same way when, as a kid and you watch like stuff with Nosferatu on it. You're like,
SpongeBob.
dang, or even back like Muppet Babies and stuff. But you're like, dang, that is the creepiest thing I've seen. But then you go back and like today and look at it and you're like, oh, that guy's kind of cute. He's kind of cute guy.
I want a plushie of him.
Did you know Robert Eggers specifically thanked SpongeBob for that episode?
Yeah.
He's just like, I'm really glad that happened because a lot of people don't know who Nosferatu is, and that actually helped out.
And then I also didn't like when Warlock was like naked. I think he just should have always wore the clothes, like, because I was just like, I don't know, I don't like this design. This is the only, like, this movie, fantastic, but that design, I was just like, and the castle is perfect because you don't quite see him, so you're just like, oh, that's creepy as hell.
You like that they kept his like little pheasant hat?
Yeah.
So,
but when he's in like Germany, you're just like, I don't know about this guy. And I didn't know much. Like, I saw, I think, one trailer for this before I saw it, and I didn't know Bill Skarsgård was in this. And so when I was like watching the credits, I was like, he was in this? I was like, holy crap. So I was like, man, that he is a chameleon. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. Robert Eggers, I always enjoy his films because of that whole atmosphere thing I was talking about. Maybe not so much The Northman. Vikings are my thing. I think that's the only reason why. But yeah, this was a great adaptation. Way better than that 70s one or whatever one. That one was terrible. Yeah, that was garbage.
Garbaggio.
Yeah, I think The Witch is probably his best directed movie, but I think The Lighthouse is probably my favorite just because it's more strange than it is like horror.
It feels like a Junji Ito, like.
Yeah, it just got that weird strangeness to it.
Too.
You love
Jared,
cooking.
So between this Nosferatu versus Longlegs, which was scarier this year?
Scarier? This wasn't scary at all. It just had good atmosphere. So
okay, which was better then?
This. Like,
you
overall, this was better.
Yeah, Longlegs would have been so good if not for that ending.
Yeah, it just it would have been great, but it just didn't know what to do. It was just misdirected. And
I think, like you said, this Longlegs was scarier than Nosferatu, but
it's unsettling because the Nick Cage in that makeup. I was like,
that first scene where it's like found footage, and you're like, all right.
Did you see that news where Robert Eggers is like signed up Willem Dafoe for like his next movies because he just loves working with him?
Did see that. Okay. Do we have any last words on Nosferatu? Anything you guys remember you wanted to say about naked bald guys?
I don't think so. I did. You guys talked about, which I do agree that his design was a little off. It didn't inspire terror from me whenever you saw his full thing. But I did I mentioned earlier, like the bite in his ears and like just kind of the worn down nature of his body. That last scene, you kind of see the age of him.
The rot.
It's supposed to be like a zombie. Yeah.
I liked how he wasn't like clean and pristine. He was like beaten up and worn down. I thought that was a cool.
Also, the design led to a very funny photo with Nicholas Holt.
Nicholas Holt took a souvenir home from that.
Yep.
If you don't know what we're talking about, just look on Instagram. It's right there in front of
it. Go to his Instagram.
All right. So I think that's going to do it for our first review of 2025. So we should have a lot more movies coming up. So
hopefully.
Subscribe, and notify yourself for even more good stuff. And we will see you next time. Bye.